Otherwise, I wouldn't have a career.
Exactly, right? Okay, hold on. Get this on here. Hello, everyone. Casey Barker here, CEO over at Empowering Conversations and New Perspectives. And we have our podcast today where we have my lovely friend, Richard, joining us. And this is going to be a definitely triggering and hopefully insightful conversation for both men and women. That's why we want to do this together so that you can have a perspective from both ends. However, I think you may find that each of us kind of contribute to the other side. So, welcome, Richard. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
For starters, thank you for having me, Casey.
Of course.
You know that I love you to death, and what a great way to sell this. Hey, this is gonna trigger the fuck out of you,
Right?
and I hope that you get upset, and I hope that you subscribe, and share with so that we can perpetuate this cycle of being upset together. Good thing that the internet was never made for that.
Right.
My name is Richard Earl Lonsbury, the Duke, if you will.
Yes.
AKA, as my partner loves to call me, the bad boy whisperer.
Mm.
Fun story with that. Recovering nice guy, men's coach, and I'm the head coach over at the Evolved Man with my partner and my buddy Nick Maytash. Right, so that it, and I've dedicated the rest of my life essentially, or at least until I change my freaking mind again, to helping men stop operating from solely a head space to a heart space, and rather than just be logic powered or brain powered, to be soul powered.
Mm.
When you arrive at that state, which is true empowerment in my opinion, right? You've been
Definitely.
and mental patterns and blah blah blah. I'm not going to get into it too early. Hold up.
Yeah.
But when you operate from a more resourceful state, which is infinite creativity, which is infinite love, compassion, and a space that we're ready to play a bigger game. You need bigger tools, and so that's what I do. I help you become the hero of your life story and transcend your own bullshit, essentially,
Right.
so that you can become magnetic, get the girl back without chasing her, and be the man, husband, and father that you've always wanted to be.
Definitely. And I think that just like you're saying, when it comes to having that soul power, essentially, I mean, there's passion there, and the passion is what keeps things alive and keeps things moving forward.
Mhm.
And a lot of us forget to get angry and passionate and to care,
Yeah.
right? So, and like you said, we get stuck in our head and we start, reasoning in different ways that are just going to overthink and get us in our own way versus getting us forward in what we actually want and need.
Yeah.
So, Richard and I have already discussed previously a little bit about all the things we want to talk about that are going to trigger everyone. And I say the trigger and the passion because that is where we're going to be. We want you to be able to relate to this podcast and to be able to get something out of it that we know you're going through because we've all been through it. And I know that Richard has a wonderful story that brings up a lot of things for people that are going to help you relate in the same way. So, one thing that we did previously is what are the three things that men or women do in a relationship of any kind, but more intimately as well, that
Mhm.
really aggravate people? And on my end, it was talking around things like I'm doing, or it was talking logically instead of emotionally, or vice versa. And
Mhm.
then also only making the emotional decisions versus the logical one that makes it more indecisive. So if you're going back and forth, then where are you getting forward, right? We're still
Yeah.
staying stuck in that overthinking. So what would be your three?
Just to clarify, you said the three things that just bother you about what women do or men do. I missed that.
Whichever one you want.
Okay, so for me, um, I mean, men and women both annoy the crap out of me. So I'm
Right?
like,
Just people in general.
just people in general, and I love them. So uh, um, I will say in terms, let's piss off some women real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So first and foremost, jumping to conclusions,
Yeah.
right? Being assumptive. That is your brain needing to turn the unknown into the known
Hmm.
without any context, without any nuance, without any specificity, right? Any kind of clarity at all. Second thing is,
And it's a one-sided conversation, right?
yeah,
Like,
you
yeah.
know, and real quick, 10-second story.
Yeah.
Never a 10-second story with me. But one time, my beautiful partner Olivia, she had this dream, or I had this fear. I don't remember if it was. She had a dream that I cheated on her with Scarlett Johansson, right?
I
And
blame you.
I woke up just getting pounded on, you son of a bitch, you know what I mean? You had your socks on and everything. You always have your socks. You never take them off. You son of a motherfucker, you know. And of course, that was the premiere of Avengers 2.
Oh my God.
So it was in the ether. We were both just like
They
this.
were aligned.
I was like, yeah, man, hashtag alignment. And so yeah, no, there's jumping to conclusions. There's wanting to have tough talks on one person's agenda on one time. We need to talk about this now. No, we don't. I almost said an expletive. But no, like having that, but on both sides too, right?
Yeah.
Again, like we were discussing, a client, like, hey, you did this thing. I want to talk about it right now. We're going to solve the relationship today, not on your time, not on mine. And then the third one would be resistance to empathy.
Good
So
one.
that is, my
The
side.
worthiness issue. You know what I mean?
My side of the fence. I'm in the men's groups, right? I know.
Yeah.
I'm dialed into the things that we're crying about to each other, and a lot of it is the fear of, and we talk a lot about this, right? Emotional intelligence, vulnerability, having the guts to say, I just want to feel loved. Like, I don't feel appreciated. Stop being a bit, you know what I mean?
Well, and there's the rejection of that. Just like that's part of rejection too. But at the same time, like, what if you did open up like that, and then there's the rejection on the back end of it?
Exactly, and not having the resources and the tools to be able to make sense of that, to handle it, and to love yourself through it.
Right.
So those would be, I think, the three things for now, until I come up with more. I might come up. The jury's out, But assumptions, being pushy in terms of the tough talks, and being unempathetic.
Definitely. So I know there's a therapy technique out there for couples already that, if you want to have a conversation, you should have it. And if you need a break from it, you just always decide to come back to that conversation. Like you set up that plan. That way it's always going to have something there to hold on to for everyone, to have a resolution of some kind. I've also heard that doesn't work, that those are the people. It depends on where you are on the level of your emotional intelligence, right? Because some people get so passionate that they do lose that logical reasoning too. And they're not really responding, they're only reacting. And I think that's one thing people are going to get out of this conversation that we're going to have today too. So jump in a little bit.
And I have something for that. Just in my experience, especially particularly for me, a lot of the men that I work with, they've already read Eckhart Tolle. They've already personally developed the hell out of themselves, right? They see it as, okay, I'm a piece of crap. I'm going to read these books about stoicism. I'm going to read Epictetus. I'm going to read Ryan Holiday. I'm a badass now, right? I listen to all the podcasts. I'm done. I'm healed.
Right.
And
if it was only that easy.
if only. But part of it is the benefit of that is that it fills your cup. So for me, when I want to have a tough talk and we're talking about things that are right, my cup has to be full. So someone has to take point on the tough talks. If your cup is full, I found more often than not, in a generalized sense, if one person's cup is full and it's yours, it's a lot easier to take hits. You know what I mean? And I relegate it to, it's like depositing $100,000 in your bank account. When someone, steals $1,000 from you, it's a lot easier to take that hit and not freak out and not be in that fight or flight survival place. So when, she or he says something hurtful, that could be a $10,000 withdrawal. But how much do you still have left?
But are you focusing on that though?
Yeah.
That's that key factor of,
Hmm.
even if you have the abundance there, are you really going to hold on the grudge or the resentment or any negative based on just that little piece? Like, where's the focus going?
Hmm.
I saw a little tidbit video on, I think it was Instagram Reels or something like that, where a woman took three different size cups. And it's like, if you have a very large cup full of water, just like you're saying, if you have a very large cup full of your self-worth and your passion and things like that, and you pour it into someone who only really holds an emotional intelligence cup that's this big, you're literally going to drown them.
Yeah.
You're literally going to drown them. And just like we're talking about today, is like, what are these self-sabotaging behaviors that are happening in these relationships that people aren't even aware of, that we can help
Yeah.
them work through? So
One of those self-sabotaging behaviors is having conversations when you're running on fumes,
definitely.
when both cups are empty, and then you're just two red cups fighting on a table. You
Hmm.
know. What I mean? And so, of course, how is that helpful or beneficial to anybody?
Right. Definitely. Definitely. Okay.
Continue, please. It's your show. No,
No, it's your show
it's
today too.
okay. You
Yeah.
guys live in it. I'm just here.
Yeah. Well, how about you dive in a little bit to one of your clients' stories as vaguely as you can, of course, and
Yeah.
let's kind of dissect it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, there was some extramarital, actions,
Mhm.
right? And this has happened more often than not. Is usually, in my case, let's just take a generalized,
Sure.
frame here. The man loses touch with himself in the marriage. He loses himself in the marriage, right? It's life is about working hard, complaining to your wife about how hard work is, paying bills, reproducing, losing yourself in parenting then. And we keep just this cycle, right? Of, okay, now I have these responsibilities that are going to chip away at my authentic expression, at my own personal power, and my light dims slowly but surely until it's almost non-existent. Now, very often than not, a lot of the circles that we run in, women are more prone to, like, personal development, in my personal opinion,
Yeah.
is specifically geared towards women more often than not. Now the balance is shifting, thank God, but you know what I mean? Who's the one that's going to read Tony Robbins more?
Right.
Right? The one who feels I'm unsatisfied and is emotionally aware of the fact that they're
Mhm.
unsatisfied. So where am I
Definitely.
going to get my needs met? I'm gonna, oh, the internet. Oh my gosh, everyone is yes, queen, work queen, yes, yes, what, right? And so I'm not happy. Yes, go you. A million people jump
Right.
and they celebrate you. Read this, do this, meet me at this seminar, dance around Bruno, da 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 da. And so now all of a sudden she's empowered. Okay. He's feeling like a piece of crap still. Is very resistant to personal development, very resistant to mentorship and stuff. So she's like, okay, I got a coach. I got a life coach. I'm going to therapy. I'm reading all these books. I'm feeling, I'm on a high vibe. What am I going to do? I'm going to get my needs met somewhere else.
Mm, right.
But I don't want to lose my husband. I don't want to lose my children. I don't want to get divorced. I don't want the messiness. Probably going to have an affair. Because here comes this other dude who read all the books, who loves stoicism, who has
Yeah.
been aware. And it's like, if there's this old adage, if you don't take care of your customer, someone else will.
Definitely.
You don't take care of your partner, somebody else will, man. There's always someone. There's always a woke dude with a six-pack somewhere who's more than happy. Uh, what do you what do you do when you feel empowered? You start taking care of yourself too.
Mhm.
You get on the elliptical, right? You
Well, and
start
like we know it's that stress addiction. So it's like when you start getting out of that stress addiction and you start realizing all of these wonderful hormones that you can have, just like you said, and it makes you glow, and you only want to be attracted and around that too.
exactly.
So yeah.
So what do you do? Very often, sometimes you tend to stray. So in this particular example, she had an affair, but then she broke it off, and now she's like, okay, I still love my husband. I want to work this out, but I can't stand him. So then they call me. You know what I mean? They see my post. I was like, hey guys, you're fucking up. Change your life.
Yeah.
Stop being an asshole. All right, cool. This guy, he gets. He gets.
Exactly.
One of my friends, she said, oh, you speak womanese. you know?
On the knees. Ooh, I like that. You need to use that.
Like, I was like, I'm bilingual. Senora. Um, and so, uh, um, essentially, you know, that is kind of, that's what tends to happen. But the husband then realizes, okay, he gets turned on a little bit. I dropped the ball. What do I do now? I need to fix this immediately, right? Like we were talking about, men are
Right.
impulsive, like fixers. There's a problem. I need to fix it. What do I do? What needs to happen in order for me to move in this direction? Cool. The issue here is pattern recognition. People don't understand, men don't understand that, hey, okay, you're aware now,
Mhm.
but now there's this space, right? Where are you, stupid camera? There's this space, okay, to where you may be ready, but she's not, or she's ready and you're not. So until you can both get on that same page, until you can learn to trust yourself, until you
Mm.
raise your own value, raise your own vibration, and learn to really fall in love with yourself as a host, right? And remove the need for need.
Mhm.
That's how you can attract your partner back to you. If, of course, you're both under the same, what's the word I'm looking for? If you're both in agreement that you want to make this work, right?
Definitely.
There was a betrayal, something happened, like we talked about. The heart needs to break in order to open at times.
Right.
Sometimes that is the cat. I used to think very black and white. I used to think, oh, he cheated, she cheated, off with their head. You know what I mean? Roll credits, let them burn in hell. Now,
Yeah.
it get the more, you know, the more we do the work on ourselves. You find
The
these
more we
cats
understand ourselves, we understand others, we understand, like you said, like why
that
do we even do anything?
exactly. We find these caches, these reserves of more compassion, of more understanding. You get to see, you know what? Why did she do that, bro? You know what I mean? Well, because she's a bit, you know.
But that's what discrediting,
Why else?
right?
And one of the reasons I even got a client is because I was the only one out of his circle. Because he has his friends, and his friends, they come from the perspective of F that B, right? Very simple.
Right.
She's the devil. Okay, cool. That's one perspective. But if
Definitely.
you can take a step back, you know, awareness helps you become more objective and empathetic. So I simply asked them, well, what did you do? Right? How have you been showing up in the last 5 years? Lights came on. I haven't. Okay. Now this is very, very important because I do want you triggered, but I don't want you to think that I'm victim blaming, right? Or
Right. Definitely.
really important. There's a nuance here. There's a difference between justification
Mm,
and understanding.
definitely.
There's no, if you do it, you do it. She didn't fall on the dude. You know what I mean? Like this was a choice. This was a conscious decision made. This was, in my opinion, a mistake. However, is it an understandable one?
Right.
That's that. If we can reach that point, then we can make progress. Then we can learn to understand the actions of the other and arrive at a mutually empathetic place, right? I
Right.
can see how now my partner and I are really, really good at this, right?
Yeah.
It's very simple. Can you, we ask this one question, you know, help me understand how you see it that way.
Good one. That's a great question.
Ask each other that, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Help understand how you see it that way. And going back to the training that you and I have gone through, right, with the almighty Tiffany, you know,
Okay.
whom we both love, she helped us understand the different ways that your brain interprets information. I'm going to tell you a really beautiful story real quick right now.
Yeah.
We have been through the ringer. We have been in a there's peaks and troughs. We've been in a trough, okay?
Yeah.
And despite all my training, all my wokeness, right, couldn't reach her, and I couldn't get my point across. So what did I do? Finally, one morning we had a bad fight at night. In the morning, I pulled out one of my favorite moleskin notebooks and I just drew a picture, right? And I was like a circle. And I said, Here's where we are. This is the current place, right? And then up on the top right corner, this is where we want to go. If we focus on, now I feel that if we focus, and I drew the staircase, if we focus on needing to make money to survive, on focusing on everything that's stressing us out, right? It'll take forever for us to get there. Okay. But if we focus and prioritize our own well-being, such as being spiritually anchored, allowing me to go to church and not having to fight about it because we need to work or this, that, the third, then I drew a straight line. I feel it will help us make that quantum leap to get to where we want to go. And then she turned the page, drew a circle, right? And she's like, here's you. This is where I feel, and she drew like these like lines, and I'm not sure how to describe it. You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like she graphed it out for me. This is where I feel your priorities lie. And it was like coaching, dreams, passion, this, that, and the third. And then she drew this tiny bubble. She's like, this is where I feel I am.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, boom, right there, all the lights turned on. She reached me and she's like, I feel like the smallest circle in your circle of priorities. We had arrived at a place where we were able to literally draw out, right, how we feel. And so we were able to reach a way of a level of understanding and connection. Definitely. And we found a way of relating to each other, because some people are visual learners. Some people are audible learners. Some people are audio visual. Some people are kinetic, right? So we leverage that. How many different ways are you experimenting with your partner besides just freaking talking? Talking is one of the least effective ways of getting your point across. Feelings are the language of the soul.
Definitely.
How are you communicating that? What tools are you using to facilitate further understanding and empathy, right, for each other? Because there are no rules. You can draw a graph.
Right. Exactly.
You can absolutely draw a graph. You can make a PowerPoint presentation, but part of, like, I'm from the John Maxwell camp, and so a big part of it was leadership. You have to learn how to lead yourself first, which means you have to learn how to lead and control your inner world. Because when we drew that, I was showing her what was going on in my head and heart. And she drew that. She was showing on what was going on with her head and heart. But you have to reach that level of clarity. And that comes from being emotionally and spiritually attuned to yourself.
Definitely. Well, and what I always try to display too is, why does it have to be hard? Like, why does it have to be hard? Why can't we have everything and it be easy?
Yeah.
So it's understanding yourself, it's understanding your past, it's understanding, just like you're saying, like, what dynamic have you always held yourself at? So for like men, they always hold themselves as this, provider, and that's taking away, like we've talked about, right? It's like you take away your opportunities for allowing, this partnership to bloom if we only focus on certain labels and certain techniques that think that they one size fits all for everybody else, right? And just like we've talked about with the duality and compound decision making and things like that, is what is it that you can do right now for your partner to be able to show up in that 20% of your time, but they feel like it was the 80%. So that your energy and your focus is then balanced, and you can have everything, and it can be easy.
I like that.
So it's like, if you want to be in a partnership, then you have to make sure that it's like a partnership, like everyone's pulling their own weight, right?
I'm hearing you talk. What I'm hearing you say is you're talking about presence.
Definitely.
And it's funny because when with the conversations with people that you and I have, it's very much, I want to spend more time with my wife and kids. No, you don't.
Right.
You don't. If you love what you do, right? If you have a career that you absolutely are nuts about, but that's important too, right? That's like, make sure you're.
Yeah, I mean, that's you. That's your core. It's your foundation. Yeah.
We work with how many business owners and entrepreneurs? The thing that you created is an extension of you. So why would you need to balance that with another thing that you created? You're the creator. So, they tend to pit these things against one another. But you don't want to spend less time, at the office or at work and spend more time with them. You want to spend more quality time with them.
Right.
There's a huge difference, but that requires presence. That requires putting yourself back in the driver's seat, right?
Mhm.
That requires putting you back in the creator space. This is what I'm creating. This is what I'm creating because I can tell you from personal experience. I spent an entire day with my family and I was like, this sucks. This, it sucks. You wanna know why? Because I'm not there,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Right. So if there's not balance, that's where your mind is going. So if your mind, if you're like you're right. That's the presence part of it. If your mind is somewhere else, then where are you actually?
Yeah, most people are thinking about where they're going or where they came from.
Right.
But until you can reach a point where you're like, okay, I'm the creator of all of this. It's your freaking life,
Right.
right? That is a truly empowered place. That's one of the reasons why I love the spiritual element of what it is that we do,
Mhm. And
right?
I think that, like, well, go ahead and finish, but I was gonna go there too.
Yeah. I mean, ladies first, please go ahead.
Okay.
Interrupt, and then
So just like we're talking about those, like what is the dynamic, like your client already had, what is the dynamic for those 5, 8 years that he kept repeating over and over again, the pressure that was on his shoulders and
yeah,
the lack of presence in that relationship. So where did he learn that from? And that's what
yeah,
we do, right? We help people understand themselves and we help them, not victim and not blaming, but just coming to that understanding and then having that ability
yeah.
to make a choice to say, no, that stops now. Now we do this.
hmm In order to get there, right, you need to arrive at that level of awareness without judgment.
Mm,
Really hard to do.
right. Not easy.
Why having a Casey, having a Richard, having a Tiff, having someone in your corner, right, to help you facilitate a safe space internally to
Mhm,
be able to objectively look at your choices, look at how you got here,
mhm.
right? But I think that's really back to what we were saying in terms of, to circle this perfectly back
Yeah,
around,
definitely.
uh, um, the catalyst. You're at this place where something has to change,
Mhm.
right? She's like, okay, I messed up, and so did you, motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now, what do you want to do? Well, the kind of conditioned mental, pattern and framework here is, I need to fix this, and I'm operating from a place of lack, scarcity. I'm going to lose this person. I'm afraid. All the cortisol, all of it,
Mm,
rushes right up to the surface. How is that going to affect your decision making? No, no, no. We need to take a step back. We need to take 2 steps back. Okay, yeah, it's important for you to realize how you got here, but it's also important to realize who you are.
right. And what do you bring to the table?
Exactly. And whatever it is, the answer is always, this is where we can speak in absolutes. The answer to who you are is always bigger than whatever you're facing.
Mhm.
Because if it isn't, let's just invert that for a second, right? If who you are isn't bigger than whatever you're facing, then whatever you're facing is in charge.
That's
Who would you
big. That's a big statement. I think that one needs to be repeated, man.
where's my mic?
Yeah, truth bomb right there.
If so, we're talking about the context of, asking somebody who you are, and if who you are is not bigger than your circumstance, then the circumstance is in charge. How is that even possible when everything that you see with the naked eye was created by man? Woman too, right? By
Yeah,
people,
heck yeah.
humanity. I mean, I'm gonna talk about all the feminists in your side. It doesn't matter. Okay, my
Yeah.
point here, all right, right? Equal pay. All right, so I'm done. Um, let me use my fork
you
of
you
authentic.
fork that up.
I'm best friend. Yup. Are we gonna do karate in the garage?
Yes.
Um. So this is my fork of emphasis. Um. my first offer when I started this whole journey, right? It was really cheesy, but it was called the Road Trip Reunion. Okay.
Mm.
And it's where you and I get in the metaphysical car and we drive back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I mean, what was one of the whole presupposition of NLP, right? It's about choice.
Yeah.
Who's the chooser? If you want to create something new, then wouldn't it then make sense to focus on the creator? To
Definitely.
now returning people back to themselves, that's all we do. That's it. Great leaders create more leaders. They don't create more followers. I don't know anything. When I work with somebody.
Right.
I'm a complete blank state. I'm just the mirror, right? But my intention is to reflect back just how amazing you truly are. How connected you truly are, how life isn't happening to you, it's not happening for you. Life is happening as you.
Definitely.
Reclaiming one's personal power in a true sense, in my opinion, because you hear it, it's a freaking buzzword. It annoys the crap out of me when I hear it sometimes, right? And I love TR, right? You know what I mean? And you can do all the power poses in the world, but until you sell yourself on the belief that who you are at the core is bigger than the affair. It's bigger than your past. It's bigger than your biggest mistake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you will always be a victim to your. You will always be, at effect. You will not be at cause, at root cause. That is not an empowered state. Now, what if you had people that helped you sell yourself on you? And then we shift that over to, okay, cool. I'm powerful. Got it, Richard. I understand. Makes sense. Now, do you deserve love? I think so. What if you totally screw up this marriage? Now the work begins.
That's kind of what I do with my people when I try to trigger them the most before we go down that rabbit hole, because I
Yeah,
know it's going to be an awesome rabbit hole. But I mean, I literally draw a line in front of them. I draw a line in front of them and I say, who's on the other side? Because right, what we do is just like you said, it's visual, it's emotional. It's
yeah,
all of this different key components of work that has to happen. And same with NLP and our language patterns is if I draw a line, draw a threshold, and I say, all you need to do is walk over it,
yeah.
and they say, I can't, or I'll try.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, like you're saying, what we're working on is not the ability to do it, it's what's holding you back from doing it.
Mm. Yeah,
So, what that's the work that has to happen is it can be easy, and you're making it hard just by the hesitation.
I love that you said that because you're making it hard. Who taught you that?
Mhm. You taught me that?
No, no, I'm saying like in
Oh,
general. If we're
right.
speaking to
Exactly.
the
Oh, exactly.
hypothetical, right, the hypothetical client, who taught you that, right? Because the notion, the belief that you your self-worth is something that's quantitative and
Mhm.
it can be subject to circumstance
Mhm.
is something that you were programmed with.
Right.
That is something that maybe your parents taught you, consciously or subconsciously.
Definitely.
You arrived at that point of understanding because that helped you survive.
Mhm.
And
Well, that's
because
yeah.
so that's where the curse of the high performer comes in. I have to get straight A's because straight A's equals love. I
Mhm.
have to provide because provision equals love. This thing equals love when we both know that the true nature of love is unconditional. Now, approval, that's something else.
Right.
Approval is dopamine.
Right.
You know what I mean? Approval is serotonin, whatever the good feels, right? You're with the natural drug dealer that is your body. you know. Now, there's a difference between approval, dopamine, and unconditional love. That is, to me, it is a universal metaphysical feeling of total safety.
Mhm. Definitely.
It is being home in yourself,
Mhm.
realizing that
Love that.
you realizing that you deserve love and are love, and nothing can take that away. Your decisions can strip away everyone that you care about, right?
Yeah.
And you will still deserve it.
Mhm.
That is a hard place to reach, and I'm still working on it.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're still working on it, but being aware of that, having your environment reflect that and continue to remind you. I heard this, I think you'll love this. There's this quote: we need more often to be reminded than informed.
That's like confirmation, that validation.
You know,
Yeah.
we don't tell, and you don't teach. I'm not a good teacher. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I spent 4 years at City College, and then I met Olivia, and we got pregnant. So
Yeah.
there's a anatomy lesson for you. You know, that's it. That's as far as. I don't have an associate's degree. I don't have a bachelor's degree. You know, I don't have the things that would make my father proud, but I'm able to, I'm able to help, men reach this point.
Right.
And I jokingly tell, I get to make old white men cry, and they pay me a lot of money for it. Like, it's
Fuck yeah.
basically it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm gonna get off my soapbox for a second so we can keep going. There's just something here I think that is important that
Definitely.
I feel very compelled to say to whoever is listening is, when you arrive at the place of understanding where you are a host unto yourself, and everything else that you're afraid to lose is an attachment.
Right.
What if, indulge me for a second, what if on an energetic level we were all connected, we did all come from the same place? Now, I'm not trying to convert anybody, but if that were true, okay, how do you lose anyone?
Right. I would say that you're not losing anyone who's not meant to be there. And you're never going to lose them as long as they want to be there.
Exactly. When relationships become empowered, authentic choices on both parts, you have arrived at a place of love, connection, compassion, and creativity you never thought possible. It literally busts out the glass ceiling that is self-imposed. Because how many people, like, when you think about the nature of the soul, okay, does the soul like to be restricted?
Fuck
Or
no.
does the soul like, you know what I mean? Or does the soul live to expand? Don't box me in, because I will find a way of busting
Well,
out.
that's my quote I tell myself all the time. It's like, you back me in a corner, you better start moving because I'm gonna
Well,
start swinging.
what was did you ever see Funny People, that awful Judd Apatow movie?
I don't think so.
It was just a bunch of, it was like Seth Rogen and Adam Sandler. It was like not very funny, but there were some funny moments in it. And Seth Rogen was talking to his roommate. They both like the same girl, and he and one of them was like handsome and famous and stuff. And he's like, "Hey man, look, I'll give you 10 days to make your move, and if you don't, I'm gonna make my move, right?" And so he's like, "You can't do that. Don't put me in a corner. I will fuck my way out of."
Uh,
I was like, I tell that to her too. I was like, don't put me in a corner.
don't put baby in a corner. All right, let's dive in a little bit here on.
Please.
I think we've covered generically, but definitely, honing in a little is like, so the assumptions. So where do your assumptions even come from, right? So your assumptions that you're bringing up into your relationship are based on those fears, those past experiences that you're bringing into something new, or
Yeah.
even if it's an old relationship, like bringing it into what you're trying to recreate in a better new way.
Mm-hmm.
And then, not being able to emotionally have the intelligence to understand if you're choosing a soulful and emotional decision, or is it the logical overthinking decision, or is it a logical decision, just like you said with your pictures, is like that needed to happen so you could visually see, so that you could visually plan, so you could talk about things, so you
Yeah.
can move forward. So what were one of the other ones that was your biggest trigger?
Tough talks
Yeah, tough talk.
on one person's agenda. Like,
Yeah,
we are still working on that, but
yeah,
I think okay. So full transparency here. Like, the thing that makes me nuts, right, is like my boundary of, if I'm mad, if you have the gift of gab, it's a weapon. You know what I'm saying?
I
If
have
you
it.
you do, if
Uh,
you are eloquent and you can speak and you read for fun on your spare time and you were the nerd that kind of blossomed into the hot creatures that are us, right?
right.
Then your tongue is very sharp.
Mm,
And if my croc brain takes over, D'Artagnan, you know what I mean? Like I start swinging
mhm.
and I cut people to pieces. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, I'm so scary,
Right.
but in terms of my defense mechanism is, I need to destroy the self-importance and the fear of whoever is making me feel this way.
Right.
And so instead of doing that, which again, getting to that level of awareness, doing the work and realizing, okay, I'm feeling I'm here, right?
Right.
And I'm aware of it. So I tell her this, and I'm like, okay, this is how I'm ready to strike, you know. And hey, whoever that is, I'm gonna throw this fork in them. All right, but so I'm ready to strike, right? And I don't want to talk.
Mhm.
She can't stand it. Right, her thing is silence equals danger too. So that's back on her pattern. That's her history. Silence equals danger because abusive parents make you feel that way. Silence was never good when your parents are alcoholics and they're all
Right.
messed up, right? It's like, okay, now you're gonna get it. So and we're working on that, but that's a big one for me. It's like I just
Yeah.
want to be quiet. I'm setting a boundary. I don't want to talk. Well, why did you want to?
Well, and I think what that is like it's identifying our own triggers and being able to communicate when we're triggered so that we know that it's ours and not theirs, right?
Yeah.
So like one thing that I always say, like, I have feelings. I have feelings. I need to go deal with my feelings. Leave me alone with my feelings. But that's also like a trauma response, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
Like that was a learned behavior from my parents. And through the therapy that I've been through, it's like what our personality behaviors are, what our trauma responses are, and just the things that we've learned as just basic learned behaviors, just like you're saying, that makes us who we are. And we get to choose if we want to move forward like that and knowing that I don't need to put one of those labels on it. This is just who I am. And I understand who that is. And I know what that person wants and needs because I've done the work, right?
Yeah.
And now I know how to communicate it. And so that I can communicate it. And whoever's on the other end of that communication, that's their responsibility on if, how they respond to it. And just like you're saying, it's like it takes two to tango in that relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the person who does a behavior on either end has to take responsibility of it and work through it before they could get anywhere forward. Because that's just saying, it's like with your client, it's like if she did this and he did that, and there's so much guilt and resentment and all of these negative things, like if you keep focusing on that and you're not learning what's underneath of it, then how do you get away from it?
Yeah.
And do you want to? Is it like how do you teach forgiveness? Ooh.
That's a good. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. This looks like my Donald Trump hand. Like this was a little bit, didn't it? There goes half of your viewership. But all right. So I want to two things. Number one, I love that you keep bringing up therapy.
Oh, definitely.
I want to stress this because there's this sharks versus jets. You know what I mean?
Right.
Bloods
And you could
versus
be
pits.
self-therapy,
Yeah.
It's like, but you have to diffuse it. You have to like filter through it.
What I'm hearing you say that is because there's like been this like blood feud right
Mm,
between like the coaching industry and mental health and psychology and stuff, right? It's like if you don't have the plaque on your wall you're not valid, but also if you have the plaque on your wall you're a quack.
mhm.
So I love that. First and foremost, it's not as black and white as that,
No.
because I've been in the system and I've spoken with like PhDs and master's degrees, and they
Well, and
do
just in
suck.
our group in general, how many people have left their profession
You
and
know,
that piece of paper to come do what we do?
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
But it's also there's an integration there too.
Mm.
right? If you truly love your people, you will continue. You'll find whatever it works that optimizes you, that keeps you focusing on within. And I personally love therapy. My dad's a therapist. He's been one for 30 years. You know what I mean? So, and it's been so beneficial to me to reach this level of awareness and understanding. And what I love about the marriage of, you know what I mean, like psychology and therapy, and then the coaching industry is, one of my friends said, therapy dissects, coaching directs. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's this really beautiful kind of, if they work in tandem, what's
Right,
possible
definitely.
for you. It's
Yeah.
not just this dichotomy of splitting it up into this good, this bad. That's immature. Now I'm realizing that is very, very immature. I think there's room for both, and I champion both all
Mm-hmm.
day and every day. The distinction, that's a different conversation. We're going to need to split that. We're going to need to find a
Right.
time
Yeah.
to talk about that and realize when is a good time for this and when's a good time for that.
Well,
But
just like we talked about base a little bit before, is like you can sit down and read everything and listen to everything, but when are you actually going to do something with it?
yeah, yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
just like you're saying, it's like therapists bring up all of these things for us to understand and to filter through sometimes. I know that we do that too. And who's going to be there to help you do something with it?
Yeah,
Because that's where the new comes, right?
that's where
Like
the
when,
direction comes in. Like,
right.
I love that. You're the best, by the way. Can I just say that?
Oh,
Like,
thanks.
I'm having such a great time. I know that we
Oh,
talked about me
thanks.
being nervous like before, and like
No one's ever nervous
we
around me.
be we be we be jamming, in the words of
Oh,
my favorite musicians.
yes, yes.
We be jamming. How
I
do you
love it.
now back to forgiveness? How do you teach forgiveness? It's a really, really great question. I have no idea.
Right.
I do know from my own personal experience and from what I have from the work, right? From the career that I've been able
Right.
to like eke out is willingness is all.
Definitely.
That's number one. That's number one. It's arriving, it's a willingness. Okay, hey, you have pain.
Mhm.
Do you want to engage it? Yes or no? That is where we get binary. That's where we get various things get very easy.
Well, same thing is like for us and what we do is these new perspectives that we bring up in the empowering conversations is allowing that duality to come out. It's like every negative has a positive.
Mhm.
So yes, you can disassociate for something, and that disassociation can be a very negative and avoidant behavior. And once you get on the other side of understanding, you can then choose to disassociate with that person or that behavior or other things, right? I mean, it's that balance that creates these positives that we keep talking about.
Mhm. What's funny about men is that they like one of my mentors told me you want to market to people that are at a pain point of like 7 or up, right?
Mm,
And I thought I agree with him. That's usually who ends up kind of like paying, for the kind of help that we provide. However, um, men are more than happy to live with that pain point of 7 to 10 for the rest of their lives.
they're addicted to it. They don't know anything else.
Exactly. And so it's this, this is more familiar. Have you
Yeah.
ever reached a point? I'm sure I know that you have. Have you ever,
Yeah.
do you remember when there were no problems in your relationship?
Never.
No?
Never. Never.
Oh,
One, I
okay.
cannot think of one relationship where there was never a negative involved
Oh
whatsoever.
man. Okay, so good. All right. I'll just
Yeah.
speak from
But it's
experience
how
then.
you get, it's how you
Yeah.
understand it or move through it. Definitely.
I remember there was this point. I'll speak for myself then. I remember there was this point where everything was good, and I had a breakdown. I snapped,
Mm,
and I had to make something wrong.
right. That's
Right
self-sabotaging behavior.
there we go. Peace can be the catalyst for self sabotage. If you cannot arrive at a point where you accept it, if you can't like convince yourself and sell yourself on the fact that I deserve this,
Right.
I deserve this. But I want to finish the forgiveness thing for a second because this is a pretty good point. I think it's really important. So, first and foremost, willingness. If you're not willing to arrive at a point where you want to explore, what would it look like? Right? And rushing it. Willingness, number one. Number two, timing. don't rush this thing. Number 3, you start with yourself. If you cannot arrive at a point where you forgive yourself, you don't have anything to give. You don't have forgiveness. You have to acquire. Forgiveness is something that you acquire. It is an energy, right? It is a full cup. Back to what we were talking about. It was the $100,000 deposit in your bank account. It was, I have enough to give. You can never give anybody something that you don't have. You can't teach what you don't know. You can't lead where you won't go.
You can't fake it until you make it.
You cannot fake it till you make it.
Never.
So it has to be real. You have
Right.
to be willing to start with you. What do you forgive yourself for? And also, if you want to turn this into a fully practical thing, what's a small thing? Can you develop the habit of forgiving yourself? Right. I'm talking to a group of guys later on this week about learning to mourn things, learning to, like, because there's so many split couples that vitriol, right? They use their kids as, like, bats to beat each other with. You know what I mean? Tell your mother that she's stupid. Tell your father he's a piece of crap. You know what I mean? Whatever. And I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm talking about. It's the divorced
It
parents.
happens. It
Exactly.
happens.
It's the divorced parents using their kids as cannon fodder. And so um learning to mourn that gives you the space to approach and engage with someone that makes you feel up here, right, from a more empowered, more reserved place, more conservative place. So back to it all ties in
Well,
forgiveness.
just yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, well, I was just saying, I mean, that's coming back to that whole perspective, and then the neutrality is what I like to call it too. Is
Yeah.
it's like when I have my own communication, right? Like I have feelings, I need to go deal with my feelings. It's being able to stay neutral. It's like, yeah, it's like I have this going on, right? But it's also me going like, wait a second, I know how to deal with this. I got this. This is neutrality. This is me being able to say what I need to say, trust myself, know what to bring to the table,
Yeah.
right? And that can be not just in our intimate relationships, but any type work relationships. It can be any relationship of like you don't need to chase, right? You don't need to chase from scarcity. You need to learn how to appreciate and attract, and then whatever's going to be is going to be.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so just to wrap up
Yeah.
on the forgiveness aspect of it, it's just remembering that, like, you have back to leadership. You have to learn to lead yourself. You have to learn how to do it yourself. Are you willing to, right? Are you willing to give yourself the time that it takes? And are you willing to start with yourself? This is gold. I don't know.
I told you that you had nothing to worry about because it would be a very fluid conversation.
So fluid. Hashtag flow. Hashtag fluidity. Hashtag karate in the garage.
All right, any
But
closing thoughts?
I have a closing question.
Go for it.
How are you approaching your biggest struggle
Mm,
when it comes to fully accepting yourself?
yeah. How are you approaching your biggest struggle when it comes to fully accepting yourself?
Yeah.
Me personally,
Yeah.
I can fully accept myself because I know all of the struggles that I've ever gone through, and I can know that I am here today. And no matter what happened back then, I made it to today. And today,
Mm.
every today is a new day, and I get to choose what I want to do today. And it's just that threshold of today,
Do
and
you practice that?
choosing to step over that threshold every day.
Do you practice that, or is that
Yeah.
just something that you've ingrained and then just lean on?
I would say both. I mean, we all have our bad days, right? So it's
Yeah.
like if I need to do the practice and the coping techniques and things like that, I definitely do them as soon as I feel like I need to. In the same
Mhm.
time, though, like we do with our techniques and our trainings, is like the more you understand them, the more you practice them. I don't need necessarily that coaching person with me. However, it's an awesome thing to be able to have these conversations and to have that self validation in acceptance by being vulnerable with somebody else
Yeah.
and knowing that everyone has had the struggles. Why are we not talking about it?
Yeah. It's the great
Why is that not coming to the table to be able to have that as a normal now?
emotions are the great equalizer. It gets us all to, you know what I mean? It puts us all on the same page at the same, there's no
Yeah.
status at that point. You know what I mean? It's
No,
just like
exactly.
everyone is human in
And
that
that's
regard.
what people are like. You interview this person, you've worked massage wise. It's like, I've massaged this person comes to me. And it's like, I adore every single person I have ever come in contact with because I
Yeah.
can see their hurt. I can understand where they've come from. And just like you said, it's like the techniques that we've learned how to do. And because we've done that work on ourselves, it's like when you show up, it's like, I'm a mirror. I would love for you to see what I see in you. And then there's no doubt about it how much you would love yourself.
Yeah. Well,
That's what people forget.
for what it's worth, just like the work that you've done on you is palpable. Like it's
Thanks.
potent,
Thank you.
if you will. Like I'm really grateful to be around that this morning too, and I'm really thankful for this conversation. So
Yeah,
thank you.
you're very welcome. Thank you for being you. I knew this was going to be a great conversation. I
Yeah,
follow
man.
all of your stuff too. Tell us what you have coming up.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. Plug time.
Yeah.
If you're a man or identify, I don't know, if you're a man and this resonated at all. If you want to know more about it, if you want to hear more about it, if you want to dive into this with another group of men who are turning themselves on, becoming fully aware and ready to show up and fire on all cylinders from a truly empowered place, then come join me at the Evolved Man Cave. Just type it in the Facebook group search bar, the Evolved Man Cave. And we have our first training with me as head coach now this Monday. Is it the 3rd, October 3rd? I think, is it?
Today's the third, so it would be
October 4th.
the
Yeah, this
fourth.
Monday, October 4th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we're going to dive into thriving through pressure and the pressures of life, right? Either you have gotten a new position in your job, your marriage or relationship is falling apart, or you have multiple businesses and you need to know, you want a true north to follow and learn to thrive through the pressures of all of that. Um, yeah, I'm very excited for anyone that resonated. Please feel free to join that, follow that, and join me in my journey to help lead you back to you.
My closing thoughts would be to empower and help people understand, like, draw your threshold and see what's holding you back from doing it. Journal on it. And, the biggest thing that I teach through people coming self-aware out of this self-sabotaging behaviors is, why are you choosing to discredit, distort, or generalize what
Mm-hmm.
has happened to you or someone else without giving it the space, right, to just feel it out?
Yeah,
Like you said, it's like the frequency of feeling is going to be 10 times, if not 500 times, more powerful than you choosing to overthink about it.
yeah. You got to feel the heal.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great stopping point.
So
So
good.
definitely catch me over at Empowering Conversations and New Perspectives for Empaths, Feelers, and Healers. And it's our Facebook group. And then, yes, Mr. Richard will be back on because we do have such great conversations. And thank you
Oh
for
yeah.
being here today. And have a great rest of your day. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
man.